comic book fans, welcome to another exciting edition of Cammy's Comic Corner. I'm your host as always, Cammy. This episode of Cammy's Comic Corner has been brought to you by Valkyrie Squadron. From the creator of the hit webcomic Marsh Rocket comes a new science fiction epic spectacular featuring babes, bots, and big guns. Valkyrie Squadron, updating every Tuesday and Thursday over at www.valkyriesquadron.com. And be sure to follow the creator Jules Rivera on Twitter at Jules Rivera, and the comic itself, Valkyrie Squadron, at Valkyrie Squad, for all the updates so you don't miss a single page. Now, on to the episode. Unfortunately, we did not have a pick of the week this week because everything was like, okay, well played. But nothing really stuck out and said, Cammy, pick me, please! Because I love it when my comics talk to me. Then I have another hit of LSD. So instead, we're going to have a little bit of a fast five. So, first up from Marvel, we have Daredevil Reborn number 4. Now, we have the conclusion of this little miniseries of, first of all, ending on a cliffhanger last issue of thinking Calavera shot Matt right in the head and let him fall to his death. Well, apparently the bullet just grazed him, and the water at the bottom of the cliff broke his fall. And him being trained as Daredevil, learning how to take pain, he survives the fall. And then he tracks down the little blind boy that we met in the first issue, and he recovers over at his house because his mom's up pouring it out with the neighbors. So he recuperates, he builds his strength, and then he goes to confront Calavera and the corrupt police officers head on. But the little blind boy's dad apparently died, trying to stop the corruption. But he was a police officer, so he takes his dad's nightsticks and body armor to help pave the way of some serious ass-kicking. And that's what we get in this issue. We get Matt finally overcoming fear. He has no more fear. Calavera tries to, do the whole little fear mind trick on him again, bringing up Bullseye. Doesn't work anymore. And now Matt's on his way back to New York to go, reconnect with his old homies and cronies. And now he wants to get Foggy back in the mix and then become Daredevil in New York City once again. So it was a very good ending to this miniseries. Andy Diggle, in my opinion, wrote one hell of a Daredevil run. And it's going to be unfortunate that he's no longer going to be on the series, but we have Mark Waid all around the corner. So, good things I'm sure are going to come. Next up from DC, we have Batman Incorporated number 6. Now we have Batman really starting to recruit around every single area he visits, whether it's in Hong Kong, whether it's in France, whether it's in South Africa, yada yada yada. And guess what? The public loves it. They love that Bruce Wayne is funding Batman. So the shares have been, just skyrocketing and the stock, and so, people want to be a part of it. And Bruce Wayne goes to the extent of showing that, we know wherever Batman is now because we have everyone around. And now we have these new cybernetic Batmen, which are they strike a very similar tone of the ones we saw in Kingdom Come with Alex Ross and Mark Waid. So we don't know if, if this universe is slowly becoming that, but you do see a lot of similarities, that's for sure. We also get a lot of game-changing things happening in this issue, like Red Robin. He was impressed with Red Robin's work when he was gone. He heads Red Robin as the new leader in The Outsiders. So now it's going to be Red Robin and The Outsiders. And then we have one of the classic memes that we're going to see across the internet for a while now. We have Bruce Wayne trolling on online message boards, trying to just get people so confused on who really is Batman or what's the deal with Batman, etc. But Chris Burnham's art in this issue just completely killed, destroyed, maimed, took no prisoners. It was gorgeous to look at is what I'm trying to tell you. And then Grant Morrison, he's just making everything come together for when Batman faces off against Leviathan. It's going to be one hell of a battle. So, Batman Inc., again, great issue. Next up from Image, we have Chew number 27. Now, this takes place in the future. We don't know what happened to lead up to these events. Not yet being the key word there. We have Antonelli Chew, which is Tony's twin sister. She goes by Tony as well, for short. And it's focusing on her and NASA. And Tony's in a hospital bed. We don't know how he got there, but she's her whole history is she was a part of NASA, again, at a telescope. And at the telescope, it's only needs $3 million to run, but they got a surplus of $24 million. And so, with all this money, they got bored really quickly. Similar situation that we saw in Russia earlier in the series. And so, to keep themselves entertained, they would feast and dine upon, as in licking, psychedelic frogs. And so, that's how she got her kicks back in the Amazon. And we see an old colleague come to revisit her and talk about how since he's a frog collector of the psychedelic kind and the regular kind, the mix-up between Chogs and psychedelic frogs. So now we have psychedelic Chogs, and someone stole his whole stash, broke in and robbed him, and we find out it's D-Bear, the same D-Bear that was supposedly, you know, FDA undercover, and has been giving Tony Chu a little bit of a hard time in the past. Well, she and her NASA buddies go to confront him in an underground restaurant, and again we see D-Bear with the cleaver about to throw it at one of them. So it all feels like, you know, we're being retold Chew again with Tony. Anyway, at the end, we see her bite D-Bear as he runs out the door, and it seems like with her bite, instead of getting a hissy or something, she knows what's going to happen, perhaps? Like, Tony could predict, or when Tony eats something, he gets the whole history. When Tony, his sister, eats something, does she get a glimpse in the future? We don't know yet, but it's a very interesting concept. And then once again, we see Tony be revisited by the vampire dude that we're not so sure about yet. So again, Layman, Guillory, doing a fantastic job on this series. Consistently entertaining, constantly amazing. I have nothing but high praise for this series. Next up from Marvel, we have FF number 3. Now, we get a little bit more in-depth about why Val and Dr. Doom are teaming up. We see people in the start of this issue getting invites. We see the High Evolutionary, Diablo, Mad Thinker, the Wizard. They all get invites to a seminar hosted by Dr. Doom at the Baxter Building on how to take down Reed Richards. And all of this is theoretical. Reed is on hand. He says, listen, if any of this is going to, you know, actually happen, I got the Avengers right on speed dial. Don't even test me. And then we find out why they've all been called there and why they're learning how to take down Reed Richards. It's because Val, when her dad wasn't looking, found his little machine that went to the Council of Reeds and saw the aftermath of, you know, when they were attacked way back in the Fantastic Four run. And she brings a couple of them back to Earth because they're someone's attacking them again. And only a handful of Reeds make it there, and they discover, okay, well now we need to find out how to get back to our own planets. And so in this issue we see the behind-the-scenes workings of the Reeds. They are visiting Old Atlantis, the Forever City, the moon where the Universal Inhumans live, and the Negative Zone cult so they can talk to Annihilus. And we slowly start to figure out that they are willing to sacrifice this Earth in order to get back home to their own separate Earths. And we even get smacks and dabs of these Reeds are what helped make Johnny Storm die by Annihilus's hand. So it was very creepy shit. Because you get the Council of Reeds. These guys are badasses because they know everything. And since this isn't their universe, they don't care what the repercussions might be. But again, with Steve Epting and Jonathan Hickman, I mean, Jonathan Hickman, he's had all this to think about. Let's just stop a second and think about this. Ever since his start on Fantastic Four, he's had this entire story just bouncing around in his mind. And it was just a matter of time and readers being patient from getting point A to point B and going like, well, why did that story happen? Or what significance is that? All having it just unravel and unfold and be presented to us as like, oh, by the way, this is new status quo. This is actually how all this started. And again, just the moth's wings having this tornado finally reach us. It's just fantastic stuff. Good stuff. And finally this week from DC, we have Rebels number 28. I say finally, also meaning this is the last issue of Rebels, unfortunately. So they go out with a bang. We have Starfire and Blackfire. They are battling Starro while trying to gain some time for the backup to come and help out. Because, you know, it's only Starro the Conqueror they're facing. Nothing much. And then meanwhile, we have Tribulus upgraded with his new upgraded mental lightning bolts, taking care of all the Starros that have already implanted people on their faces. I mean, I used to have mine right here, but then Tribulus stopped by, and now I'm cured. Thank you, Tribulus. And so Brainiac 3 feels pretty good about himself that he was the one, not Brainiac 5, that made sure everyone was saved by the end of the day. And then we have Smite and Lobo teaming up, and they're you know, instead of trying to kill each other nowadays, they could have their own miniseries if DC were to play their cards right. But they're in on the whole, okay, well, let's take Starro down. I mean, Smite's obviously been turned. It was Starro's fault that his little girlfriend there died. And so they have a plan set in motion. They get Tribulus to go and attack Starro, causing him severe pain. And then when a transport generator like opens up, he goes right into the waiting hands of Lobo and Smite. And then a week later, we see that the world of Tamaran and Ran have grown closer allies because of this whole Starro mess, and they both employ Viral Docs and Legion to take care of them in the future. And so we're kind of left on a cliffhanger of we don't know what's happened to Starro. Last time we saw him, it was Lobo and Smite taking care of him. Are they just torturing him? And then Brainiac 3 goes off to explore the galaxy a little bit more because he's kind of the gray zone between good and evil as well. And then they just got word that Oa has gone black. So it's going to tie into maybe, just perhaps, the Green Lantern War. I doubt it. But unfortunately, this is the last issue, like I said before. And you know what? It went out on a high note. I can't wait for all of this to be collected into one big-ass omnibus, because I hope it's going to happen, because this is some of the best cosmic stuff that we've seen in the DC Universe for a very long time. So if you're looking for something new, go check out. They already have a couple trades waiting for you at your local comic book store, and treat yourself to something great, something worthy of your time, and something that I'm sure is going to be a book of the month in the future. Not to worry. Well, that does it, comic book fans, this week. Well, that sounded weird. I didn't phrase it like that before. Well, comic book fans, that does it for this week in Cammy's Comic Corner. If you want more Cammy's Comic Corner goodness, head on over to www.cammyscomiccorner.com. From there, every weekend you get the weekly review show. Every Wednesday you get a Geeky Talkie. Then every Friday you have Cammy's favorite covers. And then on the beginning of the month, the Book of the Month selection. And at the end of the month, the Top Shelf selection. So there's plenty of going on at the site. Follow me on Twitter, @CamComicCorner. Yada, yada, yada. I'm everywhere. I'm infecting the internet slowly but surely. Also, once again, this episode has been brought to you by Valkyrie Squadron. From the creator of the hit webcomic Marsh Rocket comes a new science fiction epic spectacular featuring babes, bots, and big guns. Valkyrie Squadron is updating every Tuesday and Thursday at www.valkyriesquadron.com. And be sure to follow the creator, Jules Rivera, @JulesRivera on Twitter, or follow the comic @Valkyrie Squad for all those updates so you never miss an episode or an issue, whatever they have going on over there. No, seriously, it's issues. So this has done it this week for Cammy's Comic Corner. I have been your host, Cammy. I got no.